Hey Cactus friends, it's Jenny from Cookies Cacti. We are now at the 40-week update of this Cactus Seed Soil Battle where we grew Astrophytum and Ariocarpus from seed in a bunch of different types of soils to see how each soil affected the growth, the numbers of these cactus that we're growing from seed. So here we've got the Astrophytum from tray number 1, tray number 2, and then under the dome, I still have all the Ariocarpus from the 2 trays as well, so we'll go over this as well. So for those of you who have been following this series since the beginning, you're probably quite familiar with the different types of soils, but for those of you who are new, I do recommend that you go back to episode 1 to take a look at the 6 different soils that we started off with. And then later on, I forgot which episode it was, I'll put it up in the video cards. But then we introduced tray number 2 to continue experiments on 6 more different types of soils to kind of test theories from what we were finding from tray number 1. So let's go over each one of these. So we'll start with the Astrophytum and then we'll move over to the Ariocarpus. Now if you remember from a last episode at the 36-week update, I had kind of rearranged things, put all the trays together, and sort of put the order of the soils in a somewhat progressive stage, like from here all the way to the back. So let's go ahead and start with tray number 1. We will start with the Uni-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix, which is my worst performer in terms of both numbers and sort of on progress as well. There are 3 pots per type of soil, and I had sowed 25 seeds per pot. So 75 seeds total for the 3 pots, and you can see there's still a few seedlings left in here, but not many. Same thing here. It's like a few seedlings, sorry. This one actually is a little bit better, and you can see one seedling actually has, some size. But I do find, I think that this soil dries out pretty quickly, but it's also very fine and heavy. I don't really know. Don't recommend Uni-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix straight out of the bag, but as we'll see later, if you cut it with inorganics, it does much, much better. The next soil is the Rob Romero mix, and I do recommend you go back to episode 1 to see what it consists of. It's pumice, mushroom compost, and my native soil. And the older episode will talk about all the proportions of what I put, but the numbers are quite good, as I've mentioned in the past. But if you look at the size of the seedlings compared to its siblings in the back, it is noticeably, or they are noticeably smaller. But they're still alive, they're growing, just much slower. They're really cute. Numbers are pretty darn good though. So that was another reason to try tray number 2, where we replaced my native soil with some cactus soil to see if it would do better. Once again, I'm in the Phoenix area of Arizona. My native soil is just clay from my yard and not great for growing cactus from seed. Next is the Uni-Gro Seed Starter with Uni-Gro Perlite, which is what I had been using a lot. It seems to work well for Copiopoa, at least to some degree. And so I tried it with Astrophytum, and you can see that it's not bad. In terms of the numbers, it's definitely more sparse than the soils behind this row of pots, but as far as seedling progress and growth rate, it's not bad. I don't know if there's a huge difference between, let's say, this and Uni-Gro in terms of size. They're pretty similar. If I hid the labels, you could probably tell the difference by the numbers, but in terms of the size of the seedlings, maybe it's not that obvious on differences. But look at those characteristics really starting to pop on these seedlings. I love it. I love it so much. Next is Uni-Gro. So Uni-Gro cactus mix straight out of the bag. I did not cut it with anything. And you can see, pretty good. I actually find Uni-Gro to be quite a well-rounded soil. It seems to be doing well on multiple genuses of cactus or genera of cactus. Numbers are pretty, not bad. Growth rate is not bad at all. Maybe we can compare it to the soil behind it. So the last 2 soils in tray number 1 are my 2 premium soils from Etsy. They are considerably more expensive than these kind of store-bought brands, but remember that shipping is also a huge proportion of the price of these premium soils. So the first premium soil is from East Coast Camanchaca, and you can see these pots are just so full. So the numbers are really great. In terms of size and seedling progress, pretty darn good. The only thing is, if you look at the numbers, it's clearly winning over the other soils. In terms of the seedling size, if we look at Uni-Gro versus East Coast Camanchaca, I'm not sure if there's that big of a difference in terms of like seedling size. I'll let you be the judge of that. But East Coast Camanchaca's soil did very, very well. And if you go back to the earlier episodes of the series when we were looking at germination rate, the seedlings came up really fast in his soil. I think this is almost 100%, if not 100% germination. There's like 74 or 75 seedlings total, and that's the total number of seeds that I sowed. The second premium soil I tried was from Mike's Rare Plants, his Lofo Pro Seed Starter. And in terms of numbers, it doesn't quite reach the East Coast Camanchaca status. I would say it's probably a little bit more closer to the Uni-Gro numbers. But in terms of seedling size, they're doing really well. I think they're actually bigger than the East Coast Camanchaca seedlings. If I do it like this, see if you can tell. But when I look at it with my eyes, there's definitely a visual difference in terms of size on the seedlings. And if you remember, Mike's Rare Plant didn't just come with the soil mix, it also came with some amendments, worm castings and a bacteria complex, which I added according to his instructions. It's possible that that really does make a difference in terms of size and speed of growth for the seedlings. So that's how the seedlings for Astrophytum are doing in tray number 1 in the 6 different types of soils. So now we've got tray number 2, which we started, I think, 10 weeks after we started tray number 1. So these guys are now 30 weeks old. And the reason why we started this was we made some observations from tray number 1, and then we wanted to test it a little bit. So for example, we knew that the Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix was really underperforming, but then the question is, if you don't use it straight out of the bag, if you cut it with inorganics, how does it do? So that was one of the experiments that we wanted to test with tray number 2. And the second thing we wanted to test was on the Rob Romero mix, because I had used my native soil in here and my native soil is terrible. So we wanted to see if I used a cactus soil instead, would it do any better? And that was part of the reason, actually the main reason why I tried tray number 2. So tray number 2 has 6 more different types of soils. Let's start over here. So here we started with the Rob Romero mix, but instead of using my native soil, I used 2 different types of cactus soil. So this first row was using Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix as the, instead of my native soil. And you can see the seedlings numbers are not bad, but the size is definitely smaller than its siblings in the back. And it's consistent that even if I used Uni-Gro as the cactus soil component in that Rob Romero mix, it's kind of similar results. So these 2 rows are both Rob Romero's mix, but using the cactus soil instead of my native soil. I might say that the Uni-Gro mix seedlings are slightly bigger than the Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix, but maybe not by much. The numbers in both are pretty good though. It's just the progress and size of the seedlings is noticeably smaller than everybody else. But the next thing that we tried was from the East Coast Camanchaca soil. I was trying to guess about kind of how the components are. I couldn't fully reproduce whatever he had in his mix, but I tried something a little bit different. So I tried cactus soil mixed with a Japanese bonsai mix, which is completely inorganic. That bonsai mix consisted of red lava rock, pumice, and akadama. And I took that mix and cut it with either Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix or Uni-Gro. And so the consistency of the soil mix felt or looked a little bit more like the East Coast Camanchaca mix, but it wasn't 100% there. So I wanted to see what would happen. So first we used that bonsai mix cut with Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix, and you can see numbers are not bad, and the progress of the seedlings is quite good. Look at that seedling. Can you see that one right here? Right there. And then we did exactly the same mix, the Japanese bonsai mix, but cut with Uni-Gro cactus mix instead. And you can see very, very similar performance. Numbers are not bad. Progress of the seedlings are pretty good. And if I zoom out so you can see the bonsai mix with either Uni-Gro or the Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix, they're very, very similar. First, this shows that the Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix can do very well if you cut it with inorganics like this. I mean, you can't even tell the difference between Uni-Gro and Miracle-Gro if you look at it like this. Actually, in this case, Miracle-Gro actually the seedlings look slightly larger than the Uni-Gro mix. But on the whole, I think they're very, very similar in terms of performance. The fifth soil that we tried in tray number 2 was that Japanese bonsai mix, but instead of using cactus soil as the organic component, I just put worm castings. And interestingly, I don't think it's performing as well as the other 2 experiments that we tried where we're using the cactus mix. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't expect that, and I don't know why. But out of the 3 pots with the worm castings component, you can see one of the pots looks really, really good. The other 2 are okay. But for some reason, this pot did quite well, and I have no idea why. I mean, the mixes in these 3 pots are completely identical. You know, then we have some theories on like the little microclimate within the tray, you know, where they were placed with respect to the light and all that, but it's impossible to prove without more experiments. The last or 6th soil that I tried is just my adult soil mix, which in this case was 25% Uni-Gro and 75% pumice. And I just wanted to see, you know, if I just used exactly the same mix as my adult mix and tried growing cactus from seed, how would it do? I would say it did okay, but I would not pick this mix. I would probably pick one of these mixes with the Japanese bonsai mix when we consider performance. But in terms of ease, this is really, really easy to get. In terms of size, I would say not bad, but overall it's not as good as, let's say, these 2 mixes. So that's how the Astrophytum are doing at 40 weeks, at least for tray 1, 30 weeks for tray number 2. Next, let's look at the Ariocarpus. Okay, I just took off the dome and that shade cloth. So again, even at 40 weeks and 30 weeks, I still have these guys covered. They seem to like it. This is the best I have ever done with Ariocarpus, although I don't hold my breath on Ariocarpus because they just like to up and die for whatever reason all the time. As I zoom in here, you're going to see there is some fungus gnat problems in here, but I haven't really been doing anything about it. So it is, in this tray, we also have the Ariocarpus from tray number 1 and the Ariocarpus from tray number 2, so there are 12 pots total. For the Ariocarpus, I only did 1 pot per soil type, also 25 seeds per pot. Let's start with the pots from tray number 1, and these are also kind of ordered in somewhat of a progressive order, sort of, and then we'll go over the seedlings from tray number 2. So first, let's start with straight out of the bag, Miracle-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix. It did the worst out of all of these pots. There is 1 seedling that I can see, and I swear there should be 1 more seedling in here somewhere, but I can't find it. So this is all we're left with. Consistent with the Astrophytum, not great for growing cactus from seed straight out of the bag. The next mix is the Rob Romero mix, where I used my native soil as part of the component. And you can see, well, hopefully you can see, they're kind of camouflaged. But in terms of numbers, it's not bad. But in terms of seedling growth progress, it's the same comment as the Astrophytum. You can see that they are considerably less developed than their siblings in the other pots. But numbers are not bad, and the fact that the plants are still alive. Next is the Miracle-Gro Seed Starter with Miracle-Gro Perlite. Not too bad. Seedling size is not bad. Next is one of the premium soils, the Mike's Rare Plant LoFo Pro Seed Starter. And since the last update, I did add in the amendments of the worm castings, and then this kind of perlite looking stuff is not perlite, that's that bacteria complex. So I just sprinkled on the two components and watered it in. I want to see if over time it starts making a difference on the size and progress of the seedlings, but we'll see. So far, they still look about the same. Next is just Uni-Gro straight out of the bag. I'd say it did pretty darn well. Numbers, size of the seedlings all look, to me, it looks pretty good. And Uni-Gro is relatively easy for me to find. You can't find it at the big box stores. I find them at local nurseries. For the most part, cost effective, and it seems to be performing quite well across different types of genre of cactus, so that's a good thing. And the 6th soil from tray number 1 is from East Coast Camanchaca. It did very, very well. I think the numbers are still the highest, and you can see that the seedling progress is quite good. In terms of progress, though, if you compare Uni-Gro and East Coast Camanchaca, I don't know if there's that big of a difference. But the numbers is, I think it's higher. Okay, I think in my very final season finale of this series, or series finale, I will do numbers so we can actually tell, because it's really hard to just eyeball it. So that's how the Ariocarpus are doing from tray number 1. Now let's move on to what was in tray number 2. So these guys are 30 weeks old. Let's start with the Rob Romero mixes that I had substituted my native soil with the cactus mix. So first is the Rob Romero mix using Uni-Gro as the organic component. And you can see there's still plants in there. Numbers are actually not too bad, but the color and the size of the seedlings is not that great compared to everybody else. Then we go again with Rob Romero mix, but this time I'm using Uni-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix as the organic component, and you can see it's kind of similar to the Uni-Gro one. So this Rob Romero mix, the progress of the seedlings compared to everybody else is just not quite there. And we're seeing this quite consistently across the board, regardless if I use my native soil or a cactus mix for that organic component. Next we have that Japanese bonsai mix mixed with Uni-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix, and you can see the Ariocarpus. They look pretty good. Numbers are not super high, but progress of the seedlings is not too bad. Next is the same mix, Japanese bonsai mix, but using Uni-Gro as the organic component. I would say the seedling condition looks very similar to the other pot. So, if you use this bonsai mix, I don't think it matters what kind of cactus soil you use as the organic component. And Uni-Gro Cactus Citrus Palm Mix is extremely easy to find. It's pretty much at every big box store in the US that you can possibly find. So that's one huge advantage of seeing that there's not much of a difference between these two. The next soil is that Japanese bonsai mix, but using worm castings as the organic component. Numbers are not that great. Seedling condition looks kind of okay, but also not that different from the other two pots either. So these three to me are very similar. The seedling condition and size is similar, numbers are similar. To me, it just means it doesn't matter which organic component that you pick if you're using that bonsai mix. The last soil is my adult soil, which is again 25% Uni-Gro with 75% pumice. I would say not the best either. And if we compare it to these other pots, these seedlings are kind of lighter in color. They're a little bit pink. Numbers are similar. So I'd say in tray number 2, there isn't really a clear winner on the mix that does the best with Ariocarpus. In terms of like seedling condition, I would say probably one of these bonsai mixes with whether it's castings, Uni-Gro or Uni-Gro. I think they're probably the best out of tray number 2. But none of these came even close to like the East Coast Camanchaca or even the Uni-Gro like by itself. Which makes me wonder, maybe the Ariocarpus like a slightly more organic mix. I don't know. If we just consider how well Uni-Gro did straight out of the bag. Maybe it doesn't need any cutting, with inorganics. So that's how the Ariocarpus are doing for the tray number 1 soils and the tray number 2 soils. So I hope you all enjoyed seeing that 40-week update on tray number 1, 30-week update on tray number 2. this means we only have 3 episodes left to go before we reach 52 weeks on tray number 1. And that will be the series finale for the Cactus Seed Soil Battle. And since we're talking about these Astrophytum hybrids and the Ariocarpus too, just as a reminder, this video is out Sunday morning, Pacific Standard Time, and I have that Cactus Seed giveaway entries that are open until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today, where you have your chance to win the same Astrophytum hybrid seeds that I'm growing right here in this Cactus Seed Soil Battle. You'll have a chance to win those and to grow your very own Astrophytum hybrids. And those seeds come straight off of my own plants, so hopefully it's kind of special in that way. By the way, some of these Astrophytum, I saw some funny growth on here. Like there's a 2-headed guy right there. And then there's this one that has like a pup growing out of it. It's really funny. So if you win those seeds, you may get some of these weirdos as well. So far, I have 25 entries into that giveaway so far, so I can actually do the random draw the old-fashioned way. What I did was I took everybody who entered and put them onto a spreadsheet and assigned them a number. And then I'm just going to put a bunch of pieces of paper with those numbers into a hat and like just do the old-fashioned way of drawing a number from the hat. And we'll see who wins. So no random number generators or anything like that. Alright y'all, then I will see you in another 4 weeks for another update on these Astrophytum and these Ariocarpus that we're growing from seed. It has been very fun to find out how these different types of soils do. And it's also making me change my soil mix for growing cactus from seed. And I'm also trying Copiopoa, growing Copiopoa from seed using one of these mixes. I have been doing video on that as well, but I haven't released anything from it. Still deciding what to do. Anyway, I hope you all are doing well. Take care. Bye-bye.